I was sitting on the House of the Ohio legislative floor. I'd just been elected for the third time as the chairman of the Human Resource Committee, powerful, prestigious position, and I was reading a book on how to manage your time in your life, and it talked about what are your long-range goals 2 to 3 years from now, what are your short-range goals, 6 months goals, and then it said, if you had 3 months to live, what would you spend your time doing? So I wrote down I would spend my time, one thing, I would resign from the legislature. I would go back to Miami, and I would buy my mother a home, something I'd promised myself that I was going to do, and I'd continue to procrastinate and put all kind of reasons why I couldn't do it. And, I wanted to make sure that she was financially secure, my children would be financially secure. And I would do lectures, and I would go around talking to people and working with kids. That's what I said I would do. Then it turned to the next page, and it said, for all you know, you don't have 3 months to live. You might die today. So whatever you wrote on the last page, you want to spend as much of your time doing that today. So I looked at Mr. Vern Rice, the Speaker of the Ohio Legislature, and I said to the guy on my right, State Representative Mike Stenziano out of the Ohio State District, I said, Stenzi, 25 years from now, who would care what legislation we passed? He said, nobody would care 1 year from now. Now, here's what was happening with me. I came to the Ohio legislature with great expectations. There are things I wanted to do. I wanted to make a change in society. I wanted to make an impact. But I was just disillusioned after being there for a while. I introduced some legislation that I'd worked months to get this legislation passed, got it out of subcommittee, voted to the major committee, and then went from there to the reference committee, and then they introduced it on the Ohio legislative floor. And this legislation was designed to provide protection for senior citizens and poor people who bought money orders. People buy money orders thinking that it's cash. But what they did not know that there's no bond or insurance security in the event that the money order company files bankruptcy. And so this company filed bankruptcy and just left a lot of people just holding worthless paper. So I wanted to introduce some legislation so that senior citizens would not be victims of this anymore. After months of hard work, after introducing the bill and having the votes lined up, guy raised his hand, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Rice said, yes. He said, I'd like to introduce the amendment for Mr. Brown's bill. He said, we will hear the amendment. He said, I'd like to amend it and change the word shall to may. I said, excuse me, Mr. Speaker, may I speak, please? Yes. I said, ladies and gentlemen of the Ohio legislature, this legislation is not something we wanted to make it optional to provide protection for Ohioans and senior citizens. We want to make it mandatory. And then this guy said, no, Mr. Speaker, I just think that he's taking it a little too far. This is an honorable gesture on behalf of the state, but he's taking it too far. Let's make it optional and leave it up to the goodwill of these money order companies to provide for the protection. Let's have the vote. And they had the votes. And I lost. And I said, oh, wait. This is not why I came here. And then all of a sudden this job that at one point had meaning to me and value, it no longer had that for me. And all of us have had some experiences where you went to a job and you were excited about that job. Boy, it had so much promise, and then you got there, so much you wanted to do. You thought it was an opportunity for upward mobility and growth and development and expansion. And all of a sudden, after you got there, you found out it was nothing but a glorified cubby hole. Old grave with no dirt on it. So it became very depressing going to work. And so that's what happened to this guy, Joe. And a lot of us have done that before. I used to get my headache start throbbing on Sunday afternoon after the Sunday afternoon football game, a basketball game. I just hated to go to work. Some days I just drive by just for nothing, just drive on by. I came back, though. I came back. Because I had bills. I came back, you know. Many of us stay in relationships like that. I had a friend talking to. She said she was so miserable in her marriage that one day she went home. I said, when did you get your divorce now? She said, Les. She said, I went home, put the key in the door, and she said, I couldn't go in. She said, I was so depressed, I had so much pain in my body. She said, I couldn't just walk in. She said, I dropped to my knees. She said, I had to crawl in. I had to crawl in the house because I just couldn't. She said, I knew then I had to get a divorce. So that would happen to Joe. And Joe decided to act on that. So what can we do? Well, here's what we can do. Wherever you are, decide that you're going to focus your time. I lost my job in broadcasting, and it was a major blow to me because broadcasting was all that I had. That's all that I knew. I'd been doing that for like 15 or 20 years, and that was my specialty. But because I was so controversial and couldn't keep my mouth closed, I lost my job. You know, and so it was a depressing time for me, and I could not find a job immediately. No one would hire me locally, and because I was good, and I would send off my audition tapes to the other radio stations, program directors would hear it, and they wouldn't bring me in. I was a seasoned veteran. So you have that experience. If you're real good, many people will perceive you as a threat, and they won't hire you. Because they want somebody that they can control, and they don't want anybody in there that's going to outshine them. See, sometimes being good can be a liability to you. Am I right? Sometimes women have to scale down their ambitions and drive and what they can do in deference to men's egos. So what I did was, in the meantime, in the between time, I started focusing on my flowers. I got into flowers. See, they say when I was a kid, that an idle mind is the devil's workshop. Yeah, that's true. See, if you don't have anything on your mind, you know your mind can play all kinds of tricks on you, you know. See, when I wasn't busy, sometimes I wanted to call Bert Childs. I said, Bert, can I get my job back? My mind was saying, well, if all you had to do is just keep your mouth shut, now you unemployed. Running your mouth. Walk, 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 walk. Why you just shut up? They told you to shut up. Man told you you're going to get fired. No, you had to keep on talking. Oh, ego, 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 ego. Now you're unemployed. Won't nobody hire you because your mouth too big, mouth too big. Stop beating myself up. Why not shut up? Boy, you're right, you're right. You know, boy, you ever talk to yourself? Raise your hand. You know what I'm talking about? You ever talk to yourself? So I just kept busy. I started working on flowers. I got it really into flowers. I knew my flowers had names for my flowers. Grow real good. I'd talk to them. Hello, how are you today? Oh, you're beautiful. I want you to rise. People would bring their flowers over to me that were dying and wilting. I would speak to them and say, rise, those flowers. Straighten up like that. That was phenomenal, all right? Then the other thing is, I did a lot of volunteer work. I'd go to the hospital and I'd read the Bible to people. And I would go to friends whose parents perhaps were ill or facing a challenge, and I'd talk to them. I became involved in all kind of community volunteerism. So I'm saying that if you're going through a challenge, not that you've been laid off, but the universe has given you an opportunity to find your real true making on the planet, then use that time wisely. Volunteer. Give yourself away. My high school teacher, Charles L. Williams, said something I love. He said, love and happiness are like perfumes. You can't sprinkle it on others without getting a few drops on yourself. Isn't that beautiful? See, what you give is what? What you get. All right. Repeat after me, please. I'm going to give my life away. Because what you give is what you get. Shake somebody's hand on your right and left and say, share some happiness.